Would call to this hotline. For information about your personal data, please visit our website at ico.org.uk/privacy-notice. Our helpline is for organisations, people who work for themselves, and for members of the public.
Commissioner.
Please note, we will treat all people with courtesy and respect, and we expect the same. If anyone behaves in an unreasonable way to our staff, we will bring the call to a close. To help get you through to the right team, please select from the following three options.
The necessary resources.
If you know the extension number of the person you want to speak to,
Receive any
please press
instructions
1.
regarding the performance
If you're calling from an organisation, a small
of
club
data
or
protection,
association,
data protection
you're a sole
officers with
trader,
regards to
or you
the
work for yourself,
data protection
please
of
press 2. If you're a member of the public, please press 3.
3,
Here are your 3 options.
2.
To discuss an inquiry, we're now transferring you to a member of our team.
Information Commissioner's Office.
Yes, good afternoon. Can I ask who I'm speaking to?
My name is Michael.
Hi, Michael. I'm a member of the public, and I'm making some general inquiries regarding the data protection officers with organisations registered with yourself. I've just got off a call with your colleague regarding this matter, and she gave me some information, and I don't think that's correct. So I'm just basically ringing back, and maybe you can assist me further with my inquiries. Basically, I had rang up and spoke to your colleague and asked if the Department of Work and Pensions is registered with yourself, and she confirmed that they are. I then asked about the name of the data protection officer of the Department of Work and Pensions, and she was not in a position to provide me with that information. And then I asked if there's any legislation, because my understanding was that it was if an organization does have a data protection officer, that they have to make that information available, and she advised me that's not correct. The organization does not have to give you the name of the data protection officer. However, that contradicted with my personal understanding of the legislation. So I asked your colleague to direct me to the Data Protection Act 2018 legislation, which section. And so she's then proceeded to provide me with this information. She's directed me to Chapter 4 of the Data Protection Act 2018 legislation, section 69 to 71. After I finished my call with your colleague, I've gone to that section 69 of chapter 4 of the Data Protection Act 2018, and it confirms what my previous understanding was, because paragraph 4 says the controller must publish the contact details of the data protection officer. So I just wanted to get some clarity of understanding of which is the correct bit of information, because.
Sorry, could you just give me the reference again in the Data Protection Act?
So it's the Data Protection Act 2018 legislation, and it's chapter 4, section 69. All right, section 69 is designation of the data protection officer, and then paragraph 4 states the controller must publish the contact details of the data protection officer and communicate those with the commissioner. So they have to publish the details of the data protection officer if they've already allocated one, and then also make yourselves aware of it. So when I've rang up and spoke to your colleague, the first thing I've asked is the Department of Work and Pensions registered with yourself? And she's confirmed that they have. When I've then proceeded to ask for the name of the data protection officer, she's advised me, she's gone and spoken to her manager. I think your colleague's name was Nicola, I'm not sure if you know her, but so I spoke to Nicola. She went away and spoke to her manager, and she confirmed that the organization is not obliged to provide me with the data protection officer's details. However, then I've asked for that legislation, and as you can see, that am I reading this incorrect?
I you are reading it incorrectly in that it does say it must publish the contact details of the data protection officer. So what we take that to mean is they must publish the method by which one contacts the data protection officer. We don't take that to mean they must publish the name of the data protection officer, and that can be for various reasons, one of which is they may have multiple data protection officers, they may have external data protection officers, they may have, there may be various reasons why the name of a specific person doesn't count as the contact details. So, on the personal information charter of the DWP, they have a section, DWP's data protection officer. They give the postal address and they give an email address, and that, in our view, fulfills that clause of the Data Protection Act 2018.
Okay, all right, I understand. Now, obviously, that is your interpretation as the Commissioner's Office, that fulfills the details. Now, as you can appreciate, the data protection officer is, this legislation quite clearly makes the argument that there should be a dedicated point of contact or a dedicated person. No. And so the legislation has then given, if you read the other sections, like what the control of being an organization is obliged and obligated to do for the data protection officer. So, it sets out in legislation what are the mandatory requirements for the data protection officer. And then obviously, so that it's not just like a post, like you can create any post can be created within an organization as a post of as an officer, and it could be like a finance officer or a communications officer. But with regards to this legislation, is quite clearly identifying that an officer must be an office post must be created, and then and with regards to
and they must provide contact details, which would enable you to reach that person or their designated people. So, for example, we work at the Information Commissioner's Office, and everyone here is operating under the delegated powers of the Information Commissioner.
Yes.
So when you email us, you don't necessarily get through to the Information Commissioner, but you get through to someone who is able to handle the duties that are specified in the legislation for that person. So, in a very big organisation, if it works in an analogous way, I don't think we would have any issue with that.
Okay.
I think, if to take it as a strict matter of law, that would need to go to the court.
Yes.
So that is not something that we can provide over the helpline.
Okay.
We can just provide our understanding of how it should work.
I think the example that you've given me is a very good example, and because obviously organizational structures have a power of delegation. So when I'm speaking to you as somebody, I mean, I don't even need to know your name, because ultimately you're a call handler acting as a delegated power of the information commissioner, all right, of the ICO. Now, can you understand that Information Commissioner is an act of legislation that's created the Information Commissioner? So can you understand the same analogy exists here, that if it's an act of law that an information commissioner has been created, you cannot then state, the information commissioner cannot then state that I don't want my name to be published, but her name or his name is by definition then the details consisting of then has to be published. So for example, I know the fact that the information commissioner was previously Elizabeth Denhams. Now Elizabeth Denhams cannot state, well, I don't want to publish my details because this is an official post of the
So it's an imperfect analogy, but I think that the bottom line is.
No, I think it's a perfect. Sorry to interrupt you. I think it's a perfect analogy. If the legislation has dictated something like that's a very good analogy, because.
You're taking the analogy to mean that they must publish the name, and I'm saying that's why it's an imperfect analogy, because I'm not taking it to mean that. So
Okay.
Our view of the legislation is that the controller does not need to publish the specific name, the individual name of the data protection officer, and the contact details, i.e. postal address, email address, telephone number. That's what it's meant
Okay.
definitive view, you will need to take this to court.
Okay, that's fair.
To get the legal ruling on it.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, thank you for that clarity. But you've interpreted the legislation in one way. Now, if it was the intentions of the legislation, like I've explained in the analogy that you gave, that if it's an official post such as like, for example, the Prime Minister, you need to know his name, and that needs to be published. Similarly, the Information Commissioner, you need to know his name as his details, and that needs to be published. Now, in the wording of this particular legislation, how would they have worded it so that the named individuals has to be published?
It does not say the controller must publish the name, contact details. It says must publish the contact details. So that's really the end of it. I can't really say anything more.
Okay.
That's our view of the legislation.
Okay.
And to be more definitive, or to explore it further, it would need to go to court and have a legal ruling on the legislation.
Okay, all right. So if they had stated in this paragraph, the controller must publish the named contact details, that would have allowed the name, but
yes,
because
if it said that the controller must publish the name, the contact details, the name and contact details of the data protection officer, then we would agree with you.
Okay.
That they need to publish an individual named person, and everyone must have that on their website.
Okay, all right.
But it doesn't say that. So our view is
Okay.
contact details,
Alright.
contact method is sufficient.
So they can name a department, and that is the contact details. They can. Is that?
Yeah, so in your example, it says you can contact the data protection officer by post at DWP Data Protection Team, etc.
Yeah.
Or by email at, and in our view, that is sufficient.
Okay, all right. But that's the contact That's me giving me the contact details of the team, not the contact details of the.
I'm not going to continue to.
Okay, that's fair enough, sir.
Explore every nuance here.
Okay, sir.
As I say, this is our view of
fair enough.
the legislation.
Okay.
To get into the additional detail.
Okay, that's fair
we
enough.
need to take it to court.
Yes, that's fine enough, sir. I mean, I'm not gonna. If you made up a decision on this, I'm not gonna change your mind over the telephone right now, and I don't think you're in a position to change that. So that's not the purpose of me having this conversation. Yeah, that's not the purpose of me having this conversation. I just need to understand, have a clarity of understanding of how you've interpreted it, and it's just for clarity purposes only. So I understand what exactly your position is, and you've already advised me that this is how we've interpreted the legislation. This is what our understanding is, and if you want to have that challenged, then you must take the court action and have that decided by the judiciary. I understand that. So all I'm just trying to understand is that in having this conversation with yourself, that if the intention of the legislation was for a particular named individual to be published, then the wording would have been the contact detail, the named contact details. That's what the legislation should have wrote down if the intention was for a named individual contact to be provided with. Because obviously, like I said, everything's open to interpretation. Because from me, as obviously your colleague has provided me with this information, I've rang up back because I've read this, and I just think that contact details means the name of the person. That would
right. So that's not how I understand it.
Yes.
My view would be if they wanted to require a name, they would use the word.
Yes. Okay. Because obviously a contact detail could just be a telephone number. All right. And it's that aspect of anonymity. Because my interpretation is that the whole point of this legislation is to remove the element of anonymity of the individual, so that a particular individual is accountable. So, for example, if I was to take legal action against the organization, it wouldn't be under a name. It would be a named individual, like the person that's responsible. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, I understand your position. And like I said, I don't agree with that. And if my options are to take legal action to the courts to have that clarified, I understand that. That's fair enough. Now, moving on from this, I did ask for the contact. The contact. What contact details do you have for the Ministry of Justice's Data Protection Officer? Would you be able to give him that information?
I think it's DPO at justice.gov.uk. Let me just check that.
Okay.
at justice.gov.uk.
Okay, so so with regards to the legislation, the Ministry of Justice have complied with this section 4 of paragraph 9 by simply providing you, because it says here that, and it says that and communicate these to the commissioner. So what they have communicated to you as the contact details of the data protection officer is the email address, and that is satisfactory for yourself. Is that correct?
I'm going to partially answer that. I think if you want to know what they've communicated to us, you would need to put in a Freedom of Information Act request. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Personal Information Charter for the Ministry of Justice, which I can see online and you can search for, fulfills the requirements of that section as far as published information. If you would like to know what information they've provided to us, you would need to put into a Freedom of Information Act request.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll give you an email address to use for that. It has to be made in writing.
Okay, I can make that through the What Do They Know website.
Okay, well, I mean, you can make it to us directly.
Yeah.
Via, I can give you the email address.
It's okay. It's
quite
it's
easy to remember.
Okay.
Access ICO information at ico.org.uk.
Okay, all right. That's
access ICO information at ico.org.uk.
Okay, thank you for that. But I normally make requests, such requests for information through the What Do They Know website, which is then published. And but it's this aspect that I'm just wanting to clarify. Like I said, you and I, we're not going to change anything today on a telephone call. I'm just trying to understand how the Information Commissioner has dealt with this. So as far as the Information Commissioner is concerned, all right, whom you're acting as a delegated proxy agent for, is that any organization simply just needs to provide you with an abstract email address, and that is sufficient, or do they need to then provide you with a named individual?
They need to provide us with contact details.
And that contact details can simply be a telephone number.
Or an email address.
Okay, so, but both of those cannot be used to identify a real person.
Correct.
Okay, all right, and that is satisfactory as far as the commissioner is concerned. Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, if that is how the commissioners have chosen to interpret the legislation, then obviously you've provided me with an avenue of looking to have that further explored. I think that's all for today. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, you have a good evening.
Goodbye. So you see here, they don't have to provide any name. It says the contact details of the information commissioner. No, sorry, contact details of the data protection officer, and that can simply be a number. Look, here's a number. All right, we don't want to give the name of a person. What kind of rubbish is this? All right, you need a name of a person. All right, that's a human being. They just want to automate things and make it all abstract. This is not correct.